Ladies and gentlemen, our final speaker for this evening is a man that we are truly proud of. Not because he was elected to serve this land, but because he has done so with vision, with courage, and of course with action. This is a man passionate about home ownership ever since he was serving in the Ministry of Housing, a man who understands that a home is more than the pride of turning a key, a man recognized not only by the empowerment that home ownership brings, but how home ownership can chart a path to prosperity. Please put your hands together and help me welcome our president, His Excellency, Dr. Irfan Ali.
Thank you very much. Please have your seats. I'm accustomed to different platforms these days. I was about to say, look at people here. Our distinguished Prime Minister, members of Cabinet, members of the diplomatic community, members of the private sector, members of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to be here once again at this annual event here, Building Expo. First of all, allow me to congratulate the team at the Ministry of Housing led by two brilliant minds, our ministers, and a team at the Ministry of Housing over the last 5 years that would have done an extraordinary job in serving Guyana and serving our housing sector. And I think the entire team deserve a resounding round of applause. I want to say that it is extraordinary times that we are living in. To take into consideration that the majority of house lots allocated over the last 5 years went to a population that we consider below the youthful age. So which means that the majority of the land went to persons below the age of 35. That is an enormous accomplishment here in this region. Outside of that, we have seen increasing housing supply. We have seen more initiative making home ownership financially attainable. We have seen the increase in the processing of land ownership through titling and transport. We have seen greater shift towards urbanization. We have seen the expansion of commercial zones, manufacturing and industrial zones, all of which are linked to the development of housing. The question is, how have we made home ownership easy in the last 5 years? We have made the application process easier by making it accessible online and building permits issuance via the single window portal. We have seen the allocation of almost 53,000 lots, including the regularization of formal areas. Residential, commercial, industrial lots combined is about 51,000. We have processed, as the minister said, more than 21,000 leases, titles, and transports. That is extraordinary under any circumstances. Now, I have looked at these numbers, and the First Lady, who is an economist by training, yes, she has a first degree in economics and a master's degree in business management, did some of the calculations here, keeping the brain fresh. And when we look at the numbers, in the last, well, let us look ahead of us, because Cathy, you and the chairman of the Private Sector Commission were talking about the multiplier effect of our investment in housing over the last 5 years. And I want you to understand the scale and scope of what is ahead of us. understanding the scale and scope about what is ahead of us tells us about the necessity of this building expo, and it gives the private sector, the contractors and builders, an understanding as to the scale of opportunities that is ahead of us and the scale of input that is required from us in the coming 5 years. Looking at a minimum of 30,000 homes that we want to be constructed in the next 5 years, because we are moving from land ownership to home ownership. Now we are going to incentivize the system to support families directly in building their homes, transferring resources to families to move from land ownership to home ownership, for the improvement of their homes, the rehabilitation of their homes, and the extension of their homes. And we are calculating at a minimum of 30,000 new homes being constructed in the next 5 years. That is delivering in a country of Guyana 16 homes per day in the next 5 years. 16 homes per day in the next 5 years. And if we look at the average price of one of those homes, or the average investment in one of those homes at 15 million Guyana dollars, that is $450 billion. $450 billion that will be spent on home construction alone in the next 5 years. I am not talking about commercial, about businesses, manufacturing. I'm talking simply about homes. That is $450 billion. 16 homes per day. And an average of 5 persons working on a home, that is 150,000 jobs alone in constructing these 30,000 homes. And that is what we will enable. Your next government will enable the construction of, at a minimum, this 30,000 homes, creating 150,000 jobs, investment of more than $450 billion, delivering 16 homes per day. Now let us take this equation a bit further, because that, Kati, is in the existing allocation. Those are lands already allocated. Let me take the equation a bit further. There are still approximately 79,646. For the ease of calculation, let us call it 80,000. 80,000 applications in the system to be processed. Now, for us to allocate that 80,000 lots, it would require 20,000 acres of land. It would require, this is a scale of what is ahead of us. It requires the development of 20,000 acres of land. It requires an investment of more than 420 billion Guyana dollars at current prices. 20,000 acres. I move away from the 30,000 homes that will be built as a result of land already allocated. I am telling you now about the 80,000 in the system. 20,000 acres of new land that we must develop. Now, to give you an understanding of the scale and magnitude of that, that is almost 32 square miles, which is 20% the size of Barbados land mass, and almost half the size of Antigua land mass. That is a development that we must invest in to satisfy this additional 80,000 lots that are required. Now, that gives you an understanding of the scale of this undertaking. This is not about driving around in a fancy car. This is careful planning. This is not about not knowing what you're about. This is about precision. This is about continuous work around the clock. So whilst we are talking about 30,000 homes, we also have to develop 20,000 acres of land. When you add the two together, what do you get? You get an investment of 450 plus 420, $870 billion of investment. That is only for housing in the next 5 years. So members of the private sector, small contractors, medium-sized contractors, large contractors, you understand the scale. And that is why Kathy is right. That is why we understood what is ahead of us, and we took a chance and invested in small Guyanese company so that they can get this continuous opportunity that lies ahead of us. So that is what is ahead of us. That is the scale of operation. When you see us at a one-stop shop, it looks easy. We make things look very easy. But that is the scale of operation we are talking about. Then let us go a step further. Let us look at what we have been able, how we have enabled persons to own their own homes in the last 5 years. Mortgage interest rate reduction and savings. The interest rate cuts. Let us look at the last 5 years and what the interest rate cuts meant to homeowners. For low-income families up to $4 million in loan, your interest rate reduced from about 5% to about 3% in 2022. The individual savings as a result of this reduction is 19% of the original interest that would have been payable. So the interest rate reduction resulted in a 19% reduction on the interest rate payable over the life cycle of a $4 million loan. What does that mean? That means collectively, those who borrowed that $4 million in the low-income category would have saved almost $4 billion in interest rate as a result of this reduction. $4 billion. This is the calculation that allows you to understand how government policies, how our intervention would have helped the ordinary and every single family in this country. Let us take an interest rate of up to $9 million. That even benefited further because the interest rate for loans up to $9 million was reduced from almost 7% to 3.7%. The individual saving over the life cycle is now 42% of the interest rate. Nearly half of the total interest costs eliminated in this category. Half of the interest that would have been payable prior to 2020 would have been eliminated as a result of this reduction in interest rate. Let's look at high and middle income families of loan up to $30 million. When you look at loan up to $30 million, the interest rate would have reduced from 7.5% to 5%. The individual saving result, and these are the young professional category, in 29% saving in what the original interest rate would be. That is about $40 billion. When you look at $40 billion plus the low-income saving, it is $43.8 billion that we give you back directly in your pockets in interest rate savings as a result of the policies of the government. Then let us go now to some other indicators to show the viability of the housing system and what we are building. Because an economy that is performing, and when you have more disposable income in people's pocket, non-performing loan reduces. Non-performing loans are loans that people are not able to service. In 2020, non-performing loans in the housing sector was 11% when we came into office. Non-performing loans in the housing sector was 11%. 11% of those who had a housing loan could not service their loan. Today, as I speak to you, non-performing loan in the housing sector is less than 2%, perhaps the lowest in the world. Less than 2%. Those are the success stories that we are talking about. Mortgages, and when you talk about confidence in the economy, confidence in the housing sector, confidence in the construction sector, mortgages for commercial and residential purposes grew, guess what? By 90%, from $136 billion to $258 billion. You hear that? Mortgages grew from 136 billion to 258 billion. Lending to the construction sector grew from 9.2 billion to $22.2 billion. And that is what the private sector must celebrate. There is no other economy by scale, by per capita, that can speak to this level of success in the construction sector, that can speak to this level of success in the housing sector. Let me go on. Let us go now to the subsidy that we invest for this land. VAT was removed from key construction material and zero taxes on cement. So on cement alone, we would have foregone $1.32 billion. The quantity of cement imported in Guyana during this period increased by almost 200%. And that is with 2 years of COVID, when the international transport system went dead. Yet, importation of cement grew by 200%. Paint, the quantity of paint imported grew by almost 300%. Steel, the quantity of imported steel grew by almost 2,600%. Imagine the scale of what we're talking about. But I call these figures not only to demonstrate to you the growth, but to tell you now another story. So what are we going to do? If this level of demand is there for cement, paint, and steel, then we have to work with the private sector to expand their capacity to produce these important input material right here in Guyana. And with the cost of energy coming down by 50%, that steel will be produced here. That paint, all of it will be produced here. That cement, all of it will be produced here. And that is where we are leading the economy into. A mass manufacturing and industrial base to satisfy this demand. And I'm not even adding the demand for roads. So for the international exhibitors who are here, this is not a retail market. If you're serious about doing business, get into partnership with the local private sector and bring your manufacturing plant, your industrial plant here in Guyana, because we will give you the incentive to bring it here, so the jobs will be created here, the income will be created here, the revenue will be created here. We want a great Guyana. Then let's go now on the other stuff that we've been doing. The steel and cement subsidy. Almost $700 million already invested in steel and cement subsidy that goes to the people. More than 114 areas developed for housing. Almost 600 kilometers of road. And this ministry, this engineering team, and I must say, that we have developed in this ministry the capability and capacity to design, implement, and supervise themselves. We have saved billions of dollars in consultancy because of the investment we made in human capital. This is the ministry that delivered the Eccles Diamond Highway, the Mandela Eccles, the Merzargan Crane highways, the new highways that will go to the Demerara Harbor Bridge, the Enmore Powell Industrial Site roads, and multiple 4-lane roads across the East Bank and East Coast. Extraordinary work by this sector. And let's go a bit further. The GRA tax rebate and the mortgage relief that we have given. By increasing the mortgage ceiling to $30 million. And remember, there was a government that reduced it. Citizens who are first-time homeowners and occupy their properties now benefit from higher mortgage interest relief. Between 2020 and 2024, the number of first-time homeowners who benefited from mortgage interest relief more than doubled. More than doubled. Consequently, the annual refund to taxpayers grew by almost 80%. The refund to taxpayers under the mortgage interest relief program grew by almost 80%. Over the 4 years ending 2024, taxpayers benefited from a direct refund from the Guyana Revenue Authority of more than $3.5 billion. For the first 6 months in 2025, first-time homeowners in mortgage interest relief would have already benefited from almost $400 million in tax relief. These are the incentives. This is how we have been incentivizing the housing sector. Careful planning, understanding the sector, understanding the policy implication. So when one speaks about spending money here and there, they have no clue. It is prioritizing expenditure to create wealth, to create multiplier effect, to advance opportunities, to support jobs, and to advance the economy. That is what we're talking about. Talk about our government ability to transfer wealth through housing. The PPP civic government has never been a government that focuses on one-off initiative. We have always focused on wealth creation and providing opportunities to the citizen for upward social mobility. Since 1992, when we assumed office, we have been distributing house lots, highly subsidized. The price these lots are sold at is equivalent to a mere 25% of the market value on average. It therefore means that every house lot distributed by successive PPP civic government translate into immediate wealth creation to the beneficiaries. Over the last 4+ years, the wealth transfer from house lot distribution alone, is estimated in excess of $100 billion. In excess of $100 billion. This is equivalent to maybe more than 20 cash grants per beneficiary. So when one speaks about grants and cash grants, we don't calculate this in the equation. This is almost $2 million investment for every beneficiary in subsidies. And we don't calculate this. We don't take this into the equation. The wealth transfer to the beneficiary grows exponentially over time, and with the upgrade, with the investment in roads, drainage, street lights, and other amenities. And Cathy, I'm talking, when I give you that $420 billion, it's about 80,000 new lots. You know, that we now have to go and finish off all the infrastructure in the existing scheme when they get up to 75% occupancy. That is more concrete roads to be built by the small contractors, more concrete drains to be built by the small contractors. Let me give you an understanding as to what I mean by increasing value. A low-income house lot purchased 5 years ago, let us say at $150,000, is sold today at a minimum of $2.5 million. For a matter of fact, our aggressive work in stamping out the fraudsters that are operating led us to prosecuting a number of persons. And what we found persons who were allocated house lots at $300,000, highly subsidized, were immediately sought after and offered $10 million for those lots. That is not accidental. That is because we have been able to manage commercial, industrial, residential, middle income, and high income in such a stratification that is translate into additional wealth creation and additional value for the lower income and moderate income household. That is because of the regional and urbanized planning structure that we put in place. So we use wealth transfer as another model to enhance the value of the lower income earners. So the value creation of the housing sector is also an enormous story. Every house lot developed and distributed generates jobs. The minister spoke about that. When you look at the jobs created directly from this sector, it's tens of thousands. When you look at the demand in the last 4 years for construction material, I give you an understanding as to the increases. But you're talking about paint production. Forget about the import. Moving up from 2.9 million liters in 2020 to almost 6 million liters in 2024. That is local production. When local production increases, what happens? Demand for job increase. Price comes down. Expansion take place. And these are the stories that we are very proud of. When you look at the total paint production in the last 4 years, it is more than 40 million liters of paint. When you look at the increase in sand, well, I don't have to tell you, whole night sand trucks. I don't have to tell you about that. It has become a menace on many society, the cost of development. Stone production increased by almost 7 times. 7 times. Going close to 10 million tons. When you look at the demand, and when you look at private growth, in the last 4 years, the growth of opportunities, more jobs, expansion of the quarrying sector, the mining sector. When that expands, what happened? Demand for heavy equipment increase. When demand for heavy equipment increase, what happens? More need for mechanics, more need for heavy duty operators, more need for servicemen and women. Higher quality jobs, higher paying jobs. That is how the economy is integrated. And this is not all. It also translates into the expansion of the services sector. When you look at real estate mortgage loans, increasing by almost $60 billion. Let us look at NBS alone. Mortgage from NBS increased from $44 billion to almost $79 billion in the last 4 years. and they are singularly concentrated in the housing sector. The construction sector, of which housing is a key contributor, recorded an increase of more than $158 billion in demand. The sector accounted for approximately 19% of growth in nominal non-oil GDP from 2020 to 2024. Look around us. Look at all the other economies regionally and internationally, and tell me if we should not be celebrating. Tell me if these are not figures and statistics that we as a people should be proud of. The future that lies ahead of us, I already spoke to you about some of the opportunities. But you will see stronger regional planning in support of rural integration and economic empowerment. You will see the development of new growth areas, new growth pole, the ring line infrastructure for Guyana that will bridge all the region, opening up thousands of acres of land for housing, construction, manufacturing, industrial development, mining, agriculture, tourism. This is what lies ahead of us. Completion of phase 1, 2, and 3 of Silica City. Phase 2 will target specifically the diaspora market, creating opportunities for a diaspora to invest in Silica City. The next 5 years is about building more young professional homes, more low-income homes, more homes with an economic model like homesteads. We have already completed 50 of those homesteads that will have an economic component with it, so that the homes will generate wealth, will generate income to help single mothers led home to repay their mortgages, whilst we transfer more money to enhance home ownership. You will see massive investment to support housing in our healthcare system, in our education system, in investment in water to bring treated water to all of these communities. Silica City will be a global model city, hands down. You will see it. Everyone would want to live in it. There is no second guessing this. We already are on it. Already receiving international accolades, even in its design phase. The next 5 years would see extraordinary investment on the Linden-Soesdijk Highway, converting the unregularized area into a regularized settlement. We want all the people on the highway to live in dignity, organized community with all the services available to them. We'll invest in every family on the highway to own this. The expansion of the homestead project, like the Yarracabra housing settlement that is ongoing. The building out and support of income generating building models to reduce the cost of operating your homes with solar energy, the reduction in the cost of electricity, reduction in the cost of water, better infrastructure. We're talking about expansion of housing in the hinterland communities. We're talking about making home ownership easier, the Linden York expansion, the Goshen Del Conte opportunity, the new Sand Hill development, the new industrial and commercial complexes at Wales, the new areas of urbanization, the Molson Creek Palmyra development, the West Demerara development along the Del Conte Highway going to Bartica, the Sand Hills development going to Macauria from Timeri, the Barbies development, which include a new airport in Barbies, a new municipal airport in Barbies, the Lethem development, which includes a new modern regional airport there, the Terminal 2, an expansion of Timeri Airport, the building out of the road link that would connect Region 7, Region 3, Region 4, Region 10, Region 9, Region 8, the building out of the bridges, the Korpokari Bridge, the Barbies River Bridge, the Whisper Bridge completed, the Quarantine River Bridge. That is the interlink we are creating to expand urbanization and enhance regional planning to create wealth and open up opportunities for our people. This is not guesswork. This is a careful understanding of what the future holds. And I'm just giving you a broad brush. I'm not going into the details. For every one of these plans, we already have a detailed framework that is ready for action. The co-investment opportunities for the private sector that will come in the manufacturing sector, in steel plants, paint plants, cement manufacturing, wood processing, ceramics, quarrying, block manufacturing, prefab homes. We live in a region that is highly vulnerable to natural disasters. And we have the ability to build prefab homes that can be easily deployed in the region. And in our existing trade arrangement, and we must understand that trade negotiations and trade agreement must work to the advantage and interest of Guyana, because we too have trade advantage that we have to pursue. So we are also going to punch in our range so that we build jobs and create jobs here. There is no reason why our private sector can't partner to manufacture the tiles here in Guyana. This is the era of converting doubt into reality. This is the era of converting dreams into reality. And as your president, I will work 24 hours every day to make these reality by the end of 2030. We are not building anything halfway free. We are completing this journey to prosperity. Every stone will be unturned, and every block, by the grace of God, in the way of progress shall be removed. We have no other choice as a people. We have no other choice as a country but to move forward in love and unity, progress and prosperity, to move forward with a government that has delivered, a government that has fulfilled its commitment, a government with a proven track record. And I am proud to stand on this stage and to say, I am proud of this government, the People's Progressive Party Civic Government. We have no reservation to stand on our track record. None other can stand on their track record. We can stand proudly on our track record. The new growth poles. Yes, housing and urban and regional development is also about creating new growth poles. We're talking about the agriculture food production hub, already the best in the world. Bloomberg Grain is here investing alongside us with that. Financial services, Citibank coming here. Expanded insurance services, the national payment platform, reduction in interest rate, incentivizing lending to expand wealth and create jobs, rental and real estate, education and health, tourism and leisure. These are the new growth poles and growth hub. Entertainment. We will be the entertainment epicenter of this region. I'm telling you that. You will see it. Because entertainment is linked to occupancy. Occupancy is linked to spending. Spending is linked to the small man. We're talking about a future of ownership, where our small contractors, medium-sized contractors, can know that there is enough work so they can invest in owning equipment, invest in upping their technology, ownership in homes, ownership and building of stronger families. We're talking about easier opportunity to raise capital and financing for your businesses with the establishment of a national development bank that will lend at interest free, that will reduce the risk in the commercial bank, reduce the need for collateral, and make it easier for the ordinary family to borrow, to invest in this economy. All of this, most logically, would lead to wealth creation, would lead to prosperity, would lead to opportunities. And those of us, for our brothers and sisters in CARICOM, I reiterate once again that our prosperity will lead to your prosperity. We will work on lifting you in this wave with us. So tonight, I end by once again congratulating the extraordinary work of this sector and the extraordinary work of the People's Progressive Party Civic. And on September the 1st, you have a choice. Whether you reward extraordinary work or you blindfold yourself and walk into misery as we have seen in 2015 to 2020. The choice is simple. It's yours. But let me help you. That choice has to be the People's Progressive Party Civic. I thank you. God bless you. Onwards to home ownership. Onwards to land ownership. Onwards to prosperity. Onwards to job creation. Onwards to empowerment. Onwards to lower interest rates. Onwards to direct cash transfer to home ownership. Onwards to a stronger, better future. Forward together, my brothers and sisters.
Put your hands together once again for His Excellency Dr. Irfan Ali. Thank you so much for your inspiration and leadership, and of course, for making home ownership a national mission. Ladies and gentlemen, for the next 4 days, the Guyana National Stadium will serve as a transformative building hub for the Housing and Construction Center. It is no coincidence tonight that the world has its eyes on Guyana. We are not just the fastest growing economy in the world, we are the #1 investment destination. We are the only food self-sufficient country in the world. We are the beacon of hope for the Caribbean region. And now we are quickly beginning the global focus point, a global giant that the entire world has its eyes on. Guyanese far and wide, take it as no coincidence when I say this, there is absolutely no better time to be a Guyanese. With that said, it gives me great pleasure to now invite our housing ministers, our members of cabinet, our prime minister, members of the diplomatic corps, and members of the private sector as well, for the ribbon cutting ceremony to officially mark open International Business Building Expo 2025. My name is Javon Wilson, and on behalf of the government of Guyana, I want to say thank you so much for joining us.
There is definitely no better time to be